Coming at you live from all over Ohio. A Cleveland Browns podcast full of laughs, rants, fun, and stats. A place where all Browns fans' voices are welcome and heard. A show that aims to inform and entertain you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Barking Browns Show.
Is up, everybody? Welcome in. It is episode 83 of the Barking Browns Show. I'm your host, Jacob at Roaches and 13, joined by Mr. Nick Carnes over here at Carnesies817. Nick, it's Wednesday, so I'm not going to ask you how you're doing on this fine Tuesday evening, but how are you doing on this fine Wednesday evening?
I like a little switch up. I very much do. You know, it's a great time to sit back and reflect about what we've going. You know what? In that intro. Part of me, I think that intro is from the Chargers game, and I just see myself with my head buried in my hands, and I'm reliving that right now as I'm thinking about this last week's game. But you know, and we're here, right? We're here. We've got our homage gear on. We got Joe Thomas, semifinalist for the Hall of Fame. We've got the Cavs are on right now. Jacob's rocking in style. If you have not checked out Homage, you are missing out because they sell amazing things at Network 216 on Twitter. We have been advertising all kinds of spicy sales that they have going on. So if you haven't seen them yet, take a look. They make great gifts. They're soft, they're comfortable, they're wonderful. And I think that's about as high of a note as I could possibly ask to start on.
Yeah, that's where we are. So part of the intro is also me telling you that the Cleveland Browns are like that toxic ex-boyfriend who keeps saying he's changed, but he hasn't. That is what that was from. And even if one day they win a Super Bowl, I want that part to remain in the intro because it's hilarious.
It's about the journey that gets you there.
Right. You got to remember where you came from. So this episode is called the Motor City Heartbreak, as we talk about the game that was Snowmageddon did not happen. They went to Detroit, started as good as they possibly could, and just Brownsed it up. So that is what we're at. We're going to talk about this. We've got a lot to talk about because there's a lot going on social media as well as in some other shows and some radios. And I am going to address Rizzo's comments. I'm not going to play them because I guess I could play them for people that haven't seen them, but I personally, I want to talk about his little rant, which I thought was dumb, to say the least. I thought it was pretty dumb. But so we're going to get into all these narratives. What's going on? Watson returns next week. What can we do? You get? We will also answer the question: should you get hyped for this Sunday or just wait until next week? Which the answer is probably wait till next week. But anyway. What? Am I lying? Tell me if I'm lying.
You know what? I'll tell you what. I will probably get really hyped for the Browns' first drive.
Yeah. Those are usually pretty good.
That's going to be a touchdown. I think we can just stamp touchdown on the Browns' first drive. That's one thing that stuck out to me, Jacob, is just this is a real trend now where the Browns get the ball and they just march right down the field. Everything is as good offensively as it's ever looked. So we as far as Sunday goes, because I will be in attendance, I'm 0-3 this year, looking to break that streak. I'm going to be really excited when the Browns go down on the Buccaneers defense and start 7-0.
You at least get a part of your day where you're happy. It might not last for very long, but you get part of it.
Yeah.
It's better than not having any part of it. So we'll say at least that. Big Kev's checking in over on Facebook. We're happy to see you over there.
Hello, friend. Thank you for being here.
We need to get Kevin on the show. Kevin, slide into those DMs and let's set something up on the show soon. Get Kevin on the show. So I don't know where we want to start. So let's start with the actual game. Then we can talk about some of these narratives, some of these things, maybe even some draft talk on the back end. As of course, that's always what I want to talk about. It doesn't even, like, I'm telling you, like, people are like, oh, we know the season's over because you're already talking about, I'd be talking about the draft if they were 10-0.
That's the truth.
I would be, because that's where I am. And I have a lot of film. I have so much prospect film lined up for this weekend, and I'm gonna watch so much draft content this weekend. So much. I'm unbelievably happy about that. So let's talk about what's going on offense. No, because I'm not going to insult the offense. No, you know what? That is where I want to start. I'm going to start on the offense. So let's talk about the good that has come from this season and this game on the offense. Maybe even talk a little bit about the defense. Then we'll go to the bad, because I feel like changing it up a little bit. So let's talk first. We told you last year, but there was subpar quarterback play, so it took some time. Donovan Peoples-Jones, man. Donovan Peoples-Jones is 100% a bona fide number 2 wide receiver in the NFL. And I think you saw it again. Another 5 catches. Dude's got like some streak, like the longest streak, I think, in consecutive games with like 5 catches or something. 5 catches, 61, 12.2. And in a touchdown, his first touchdown. But when you look at Donovan Peoples-Jones, you say, like, we come into this season and did we just get a foul on the tip here or something? I don't know I think we just got a foul on the tip.
Something's going
on the jump ball there. We got the Cavs on the side. So we go into this thing and we're trying to say, what do they got? Like, what do they have at wide receiver? Because everyone said it was nothing outside of Amari Cooper. And I said, I think Donovan Peoples-Jones, mixed with the fact that David Njoku will be wide receiver 2, or he wasn't wide receiver 2, but he was target 2 in the passing offense, which is exactly what happened until he gets hurt and he misses some time with the injury, comes back, plays pretty well, clears a dude, still not 100% on a snap count, hurls a dude because he's a freak level athlete, which is exactly why we told you. That's exactly why on the show we were saying he deserves every bit of that money. He's earned every cent that the Cavs, I'm watching the Cavs, that the Browns rewarded him with, knowing they thought this player could continue to be a franchise cornerstone David Njoku has, and so is Donovan Peoples-Jones. You are going into next year with the same wide receivers going in. They'll add one, but your core, which I think it'd be interesting to see what happens with Anthony Schwartz, but your core of Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Michael Woods, and David Bell, I think those guys, they like a lot, especially with Watson. So you're going in with basically the same core as you had this year, but actually feeling good about them for next season.
Yeah. You know what? The wide receiver position was that, and the defensive tackle room were the 2 positions that took the most fire. And so to see Donovan Peoples-Jones continually produce and be able to answer that call, I think that's a great hit from Andrew Berry. I think he's going to be here a long time. And I know Ken Carman,
yes, he did.
He predicted 1,000 yards for Donovan Peoples-Jones, and some people, put him under fire for that. And it looks like Donovan could hit that. I do think he can hit that.
I think he's on pace. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really encouraging. And I think, especially, so to build off your wide receiver point here, there were also a lot of questions because when the Browns traded for Amari Cooper, a lot of people were like, well, he's not really a wide receiver 1. He's really more like a wide receiver 1.5. Is he really that? Amari Cooper's an alpha. He had 2 more touchdowns. And you know what? I tweeted about this yesterday. It just, especially when you have effort issues from certain players on your team. Amari could go out there and phone it in. He's got his contract. He's got his money. He's been paid in the league and has produced. And if say for example that his stop in Cleveland didn't work out, It's not like he's not going to be able to get a spot on another team. Amari Cooper could go and find his way to almost any team he wanted in the NFL, I would imagine. And so for him to go out there and continually just be this shining example of professionalism, effort, productivity, and especially at a position where the Browns have wide receiver has been this
Achilles heel.
It's like, it's just this unknown that the Browns cannot get right. And it really seems like they, and in the receiving core overall, with Njoku, which I want to build on that. But I just want to say, I love that from Amari to truly see him shine in Cleveland when there were questions about which I don't think were fair. But for Amari to continue to play like this, I mean, that's a position you're saying the future's locked up here. Like you said, Jacob.
Man. Sorry, J.A. just made a really nice hook shot.
Yeah, you'd love to see it. Cavs are going to, you know what? Cavs are going to roll onto their 4th consecutive win. I agree, go Cavs. We're going to have some more of that content for you coming. But Jacob, I know this is going to hit home for you. And so I want to bring it up because there were multiple tight end targets in and around the end zone that did not go to David Njoku, to Pharaoh Brown and Harrison Bryant that I would very much say should have been caught and should have been touchdowns and
drop touchdowns. Yeah,
would really. And I know David Njoku's hasn't had the most consistent hands over the course of his career, but he's been producing this year. So
I don't think he drops. He doesn't drop the one that Pharaoh Brown did.
Yeah. And so personally, I was really frustrated. We were watching the game and we're like, can any of these end zone targets go to David Njoku? Would that really be it would personally, and Jacob, I'm sure you've probably have some thoughts on this. I would have liked to see those go, at least one of them go to Njoku.
I believe that at least one of them he wasn't on the field for. I don't think he was on the field for the Pharaoh Brown one. I can't remember for sure, but for some reason I was thinking he wasn't because I was like looking around, like, where is anybody else that could have got that target? Like, I'm trying to figure out who else is on the field that I could have given it to. Like, I liked the signing of Pharaoh Brown once Jesse James goes down as your 3rd tight end because he had been in the scheme before and he was a fairly good run blocker before and that sort of thing. But I've seen enough of Pharaoh Brown, man. Like, that experiment has been failed miserably. I'm curious with Jesse James, who has gone on IR very early in the year. Like, I've not heard a single thing about him. I don't know if that is like a planned, they don't want him to come back. Like, they're not going to play him again or what it is. I maybe it's a season ending one when I didn't realize it was or something like that. But tight end is a need in the draft. It is evident Harrison Bryant has not taken the step that we all thought and hoped he could. And I think the Browns really hoped he could because I think that is why, I mean, like we talked about this, a lot of people said, and they were right because it ends up being Jesse James. A lot of people said, the 3rd tight end wasn't on the roster in camp when camp opened. They said tight end 3, it's not going to be on this roster. I'm not sure that you can go into next year with Harrison Bryant as tight end 2. I don't think so. I think maybe he'll go in there like what they tried to do this year with both Jesse James and then later with Pharaoh Brown. I don't know why I was blanking on Pharaoh Brown's name for a second, but what they tried to do this year in signing a veteran leader to be that 3rd guy, so to speak, I think they'll sign one, but I also think you do something on day 3 in the 4th or the 5th round. I think you go ahead and you take another tight end and you try to figure it out. Like, I think that's what they're going to do because you're not going to spend a high pick on him because you got David Njoku. You don't have to worry about spending a super high pick, but Harrison Bryant, like, maybe he's an up back gimmicky kind of guy, like they've kind of used him here, but it's safe to say that the Browns, though it may not be like, I think that defensive tackle, linebacker, and safety are at the top of their draft needs, but I think tight end is there at 4, as well as running back, because I think there's going to be a running back situation where 2 of these guys are going to leave. So yeah, a healthy David Njoku is on the field and catches one of those touchdown targets.
I looked it up because I was curious. So on the season so far, Harrison Bryant has 21 receptions on 31 targets for 170 yards and 1 touchdown. His long catch of the year is 30 yards. So certainly, and granted, I don't think that the Brown, like Jacoby Brissett has a lot of nice stats. I don't think they have been.
He's only got one 300-yard passing day, so the yardage numbers are a little low compared to what they'll normally be.
And I'm not here to fully give up on Bryant, but I mean, I think it would be a disservice to say that he has produced the way the Browns had hoped thus far. So there's questions there. And I think we're going to learn a lot here very shortly, but definitely leaving something to be desired thus far. And so, yeah, I agree. Tight end is one of those positions where it takes a while to develop. And then, when you bring in Jesse James and he's supposed to be your tight end 3 and he doesn't even, he goes on IR, and there's definitely an issue there. So at least the bright spot there is that Njoku you paid him and he has looked like a guy that is going to be a key contributor and a very good contributor moving forward.
Well, and you're in this situation now where we're talking about, is Andrew Berry actually a good GM? Like that is there's some questions about that right now. And I think that a lot of those questions are fair. I still think he's good, maybe not a genius, but we'll get there. We'll talk about that, especially in the off season. But so you have to kind of start, dissecting and diagnosing some of the things that he has done. And the David Njoku extension is a big one when you talk about, like, what is he doing as a GM to build a winning football team, right? Yeah. That is the question, ultimately. Excuse me. And so you're sitting here and you say, okay, did he get fouled on that? Donovan Mitchell, baby. Ugh.
I haven't gotten. So our goal here and what we're planning is, like, so normally we go for about an hour. So we're like about the first half of the Cavs game is just going while we're recording. We're going to see the second half. Then we're going to record I Agree, Go Cavs. So we got a busy Wednesday night here for you.
We got all kinds going on here.
Yes, we do.
But yeah, so you're going to have to look at all of these moves. And that's definitely one that they said, okay, we're paying him based on what we think he's going to become, which has a lot to do with being able to scout and diagnose talent. Don't get me wrong, you got a lot better chance at scouting David Njoku because he's doing it in front of you. But everybody was like, what are they doing? This is a bad deal. I mean, Over the Cap there was a couple people from Over the Cap that said they were stupid and all of this. And there was only one, when Njoku goes down, before he misses time, there was only one tight end in the NFL that was being more productive than him, and that was Travis Kelce, who I think most of us would say is the best tight end in football. And if you're telling me I have the number 2 behind Travis Kelce,
you're feeling great. Yeah.
And so that's a big move from his. So when we're talking about, is he a good, GM, you can say, well, at least when it comes to retaining talent, although the Denzel Ward one doesn't look great right now because he's kind of struggled and he's had some injuries again. Sure. But when you're starting to look at some of those things, you say, okay, at least in general, when he was able to project a guy with a bigger role, he paid Njoku like he was going to get a bigger role, gave him that bigger role, and it was everything that he paid for. You can at least say, okay, there's a nice little check that he got right.
And as we continue, you know what? It's kind of fun. Let's play a little game where we try to evaluate some of Andrew Berry's moves as we go through the offense and the defense, as we're already doing. So we're talking about the offense, right? And I think a big piece of this game that we saw play out in a variety of factors was losing the second highest graded center who Andrew Berry signed in Ethan Pocic, which I mean, because, when you lose Nick Harris really early, who the Browns definitely had high hopes for this season, I think there were big questions at what will the Browns do at center. And to this point, and, it's really, you really hate to lose Pocic for the year, but he had filled in brilliantly That was a move that, kind of was under the radar. It wasn't talked about a whole lot, and Poaches was playing fantastically.
He definitely came into a situation where it seems like the system Cleveland is running is much more fit for him than what Seattle was running on his rookie contract. Now, he's not for sure gone for the year. He'll miss the next 4 at least as he goes on IR. But that's really interesting because I think he was pricing himself out of Cleveland. Mm-hmm. Like I thought they should, and I still do think they should extend him because I think he works great in this system, like we spoke about. But there's one of those underrated, hey, let's pick up a veteran because we're not sure how our young guy will actually respond to all this extra playing time and actually being a starter. We've seen him in camp and we scouted him and we think Nick Harris is really good. And I still do think Nick Harris is really good. But he goes down in the preseason. You're like, well, what are we going to do? Well, we brought in a veteran, not really. He's a veteran. He's in his 5th year. He's coming a former 2nd round pick who was okay. Like he had some really nice stretches with Seattle and he had some rough stretches. And last year, quite frankly, was not very good for Ethan Pocic. I mean, that's why his rookie year expires and they let him walk, right? Yeah. Like it wasn't very good. And so he comes to Cleveland and you say, hey, Bill Callahan, like, you think this thing's going to work with you? And he's, oh, yeah, he's going to work with it just fine. 10th highest graded lineman, period, in the NFL. 2nd center-wise for Pro Football Focus. So that one really, really hurts because now your backup was probably Michael Dunn at center, and he's already on IR. So now you got Yoda Froholt back over there, and it was noticeable. He was getting his ass whipped as soon as he goes into that game. And I thought he filled in admirably at right guard, but apparently at center, you slide him over just a little bit. That dude's not. And so they end up signing a veteran that the last time Deshaun Watson started a game, his center was the guy they just signed. I'm blanking on his name. But so he was the only healthy center at practice today because Froholt also is sick now. So that's fun.
As we go down the offensive line, I remember that Jack Conklin got hurt, but I'm not positive on his situation. Have we gotten any clarity on that?
It's an ankle. From what I can tell, it seems like he'll be fine.
Okay. Well, that's good at least because I know you know what? I thought initially the Browns offensive line played pretty well. And then as the game went on, it really just went off the rails. And that play where both defensive ends are just collapsing on Jacoby Brissett in like direct beeline really sticks out to me because all of a sudden it was just like they were just not going to be able to protect Jacoby anymore. And despite that, had a 300-yard, 3-touchdown game. Like you said, I know one touchdown was in garbage time. I get that. But the Browns were scoring on the Bills' defense, despite the fact that Nick Chubb was completely bottled up.
I've never seen a game with less than 20 yards unless like he only got a couple carries and got hurt or something like that. So that was insane. It's interesting because a lot of times when we've seen the run game the last 2 years get stifled and bottled up, it's been because the pass game couldn't complement it and couldn't, stretch the field, make some things happen. And in this game, it was working. I mean, Jacoby stood in there like his time as the starting quarterback is coming to an end. And I definitively want to say thank you to Jacoby Brissett. I think he has played his absolute heart out. I think he will be a starter for someone that drafts a rookie quarterback and wants a veteran bridge. I think he made himself some money. He'll be 30. I think he'll be 30. I think he's 29 right now. So he'll be 30, but he could probably sign a nice 2-3 year deal. Maybe similar to what Marcus Mariota got down there in Atlanta. Actually, I think he'll get much more money than that. But, he's top 6 in QBR. And, they said if Watson misses more than 8 games that the season's a wash because of Jacoby. The season still appears to be a wash, but it wasn't because of Jacoby Brissett.
No.
And so I really appreciate him and what he has done. And I think that's a home run signing for Andrew Berry right there.
Absolutely.
The Amari Cooper thing's a home run. DPJ's a home run. I think David Bell and Michael Woods are going to be good contributors in next year's offense, or in a couple of weeks as well, because you're going to start seeing them throw the ball a lot. So the run the damn ball Stefanski crowd is going to have a tough time come Houston and moving forward. Well, maybe the first couple of games he may actually run the ball more. But before we go to the defense, right? Let's transition to the Kevin Stefanski needs fired points, because I have some concerns with Stefanski as a head coach. But I think ultimately what we've said all along was he will get his shot with Watson. You said something interesting before the show that if it's absolute dog shit and it's horrible, he may lose his job. And while I do think so, I think there is a pretty good possibility that if they go 0-6 and they end up like 3-14, 3-4, right? Yeah, 3-14 or something, which I don't think is going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. They're better than Pittsburgh, but anyway, something like that. Yeah, that spirals. He's gone. But Jacoby Brissett's top 6 QBR. His career completion percentage going into this year wasn't even 61%. He's up around 64, which I know 60 to 64 doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a lot when you consider the volume of which they're throwing. That's 20, 30, 40 passes on the year. You're talking about his yardage is like his career. 1 year as a starter, he averaged just barely over 200 yards a game. He is well over 200 yards a game. His his interception percentage is the lowest it's ever been. So he took a quarterback that has some skill and that will work his ass off, but a quarterback that you would not have said, and I promise, let's go look at them. Oh yeah, and Kevin Stefanski, his offense, he will make Jacoby Brissett a top 10 quarterback. No, you would have laughed at me. You would have
laughed. Especially in Miami, he was a disaster last year.
They tried to make him run RPOs, and the dude is not an RPO.
That's not Jacoby Brissett.
His mobility, and I say this, and I know people are like, don't make that comparison. His mobility is Ben Roethlisberger, where he's not a crazy athlete like Lamar is, but he's big, he's strong, and he will gut it out. He had a run in that game where I was just like, go, Jacoby! I was just screaming, go, Jacoby! And, it was a good time. And, the things are carrying on, and we're having a good time. When you look at what this offense has done, go look at what everyone said. There was not talent at wide receiver past Amari. David Njoku, why'd you pay him? Jacoby Brissett is, I remember distinctively a lot on Twitter, as hot garbage. Mm-hmm. This offense is not why they're losing, and that is Kevin Stefanski's bread and butter, and that's why he has never had his guy at quarterback. His guy is Deshaun Watson. Right or wrong, they said, we need a franchise quarterback. We will sell the farm and deal with all the publicity that's going to come along. He deserves that shot, and I think that he will get that shot, and I think he absolutely should.
So I'd like to respond to a couple of the things you said, because I think you make great points here. The one thing about Jacoby Brissett, and I think one of the greatest credits to him and to Stefanski, is that so previous to Jacoby Brissett, I think we could all agree that when the run game wasn't functioning, we said, okay, what is the formula for the Browns to be successful on offense? And it's all started with the run game, which would use play action to set Baker Mayfield up to give him the type of throwing lanes that he needed.
Yep.
And you could basically
he played to his strengths.
Yes. And you could basically chalk it up and say, if the run game is not working, Baker Mayfield is not working either. And that's if you go back and look at the stats, they will tell you that story. And
pretty consistently, yeah.
Yeah. So to Jacoby Brissett's credit, the Browns got nothing. from the run game against the Bills. And Jacoby was still able, and we've seen this a bunch of different times this year, where teams are using the same formula they used against Baker Mayfield. They stack the box. They say, you're not going to beat us with the run game.
They put one single high safety.
Yeah, and Jacoby's not he's not Deshaun Watson, but he's beating. He is the opposing defenses are giving Jacoby Brissett the opportunity to beat them. And a lot of times he's up for the challenge. I mean, he went over 300 yards. Amari Cooper has 2 touchdowns. You were in that game for the vast majority of it, largely because Jacoby Brissett was taking advantage of the opportunities he was
given. Balling.
Yeah, he absolutely was. And so I think that's a credit to Stefanski. I think that's a credit to Jacoby Brissett. And so you touched on what we were talking about pre-show. And so to me, I personally think that Kevin Stefanski should, at the very minimum, see this year through. But I just want to put myself in Jimmy Haslam's shoes, because we all know that's the longest tenured person we know right now. I think at this point he is looking for a reason to have faith, to want to bring back this staff, to want to bring back this regime, to believe and something to really hold on to. So whereas I did not think we would get here this season, I think we're to a point now where Deshaun Watson and the offense needs to the Browns need to win games. They need to give Jimmy Haslam a reason to say, yes, I believe in this. This can be successful. This is the future that we were all looking for when we traded for Deshaun Watson. And this is why I should buy in and keep this staff moving forward.
Could you imagine if they won 4 of those games?
Oh, I mean, then, and so not only for Jimmy Haslam and keeping your job, but just for the team. And so you're already dealing with questionable effort and losing. We've seen losing 1,000 times in with the Browns. And when you continually lose, eventually you lose the locker room completely. And I think we're teetering on some really dangerous territory that is familiar to all of us. So not just for Stefanski, the Jimmy Haslam, however you want to paint that, I think you just need to start winning to get the vibes, to get the mentality and morale of the team moving back in the right direction. Because it's headed to a place that we all know and nobody likes. Nobody wants to go there.
You and I talked about this because there was this off-season thing where we talked about, like, our good friends over at the Lineman Lounge are checking in. We're doing pretty good, buddies. We're glad that you are in here joining us. And I will join them this weekend on their show for their 100th episode. So
nice.
We'll sit down with them and talk some Browns football over there. Excuse me. And we talked about, like, because some people were saying if it's more than 8 games, it needs to be the whole year because it's not worth it. I said then it is because you could have 6 games of hope to hold you into the next year. It's just like when they finally start Charlie Fry. You're like, finally they bench Trent Dilfer.
Yeah.
Let's see what Charlie Fry can do for these last 4 or 5 games. Could he be the future? Could we believe in him for next year? I think that's what it is. I think Haslam, I think you're right. I think Haslam wants so badly to go, okay, this is why we did it. Okay, I got Kevin Stefanski. Listen, one thing that should be a resounding, hey, let Kevin Stefanski have 1 year with a franchise quarterback, is that Baker Mayfield just got benched again. And he made Baker Mayfield look like a Pro Bowler. He made Baker Mayfield look elite. He put Baker Mayfield in positions to succeed. Although there are still some Oklahomans that are now blaming it on Ben McAdoo. So just in case you're curious, that's still happening. He has a 17 QBR, guys. A 17. That is not
you were 11-5 with him, and you won a playoff game. And I'm not here to just bash on Baker Mayfield, but it's undeniable when you look at the struggles he's having. The only time he was truly successful for an entire season, and I guess, I don't know, that has nuance too, because he did set the rookie touchdown record, but then he completely fell off. But Baker really salvaged and reclaimed and gave renewed hope in Kevin Stefanski's system. And that's that. Sorry, I should say it this way. The best we've ever seen Baker Mayfield play in the NFL is under Kevin Stefanski in that system. And if that's not a credit to him, to Stefanski and the offense that he runs, I don't know what is. I know inevitably when you're 3-7, like the Browns are, there's going to be gripes, problems, complaints. Stefanski's not perfect. Andrew Berry's not perfect. I don't think anyone can say any different. But there is good here that I think, and I'm desperately hoping that when Deshaun comes back, or even on Sunday, I mean, you could start by beating the Buccaneers. It's not like they're playing lights out. Tom Brady's throwing for a whole lot of yards, but they haven't had a lot of offensive success. Honestly, like on a points per game basis, they're not scoring very well.
Kevin says it's an easy win versus Grandpa Tommy.
I hope they're coming off a bye. I mean, you're going to learn a lot about this team. We're going to learn a lot about this team down the stretch. I know Deshaun's not back on Sunday, but you're at home. The Buccaneers are not the last year or the Super Bowl winners of 2 years ago. They are a beatable team, and it would go a long way to start there. Because I just want to get this point out in my final thought about Stefanski. I don't care if you're Mike Tomlin, if you're Bill Belichick, if you're any coach in the NFL. If you win 4 games in an NFL season, at some point your words are going to start to fall on deaf ears.
Yeah,
you cannot. That can't happen. Like, and you know, this has happened so many times as Browns fans. You start the year and you're like, "There's no way the staff is going to be out at the end of the year." Well, if things really go off the rails, it would not shock me in the least to see.
I keep saying that, man, and everybody keeps telling me I'm crazy. And what I'm saying is I don't think he should be fired. I think he should go into 2023 as the head coach with a full year ahead of him with his guy. But it's Jimmy Haslam. That's what I'm saying. I don't want him fired. I love Kevin Stefanski. You're probably not going to find a bigger lover of Kevin Stefanski than me. But it can get dicey. Remind you, too, by the way, Kevin Stefanski's offense, Baker Mayfield with one arm looked better than he does healthy this year, and that is why.
Yep.
Good Lord, the Cavs are pouring it on.
And you know what? Speaking of Cavs, I just want to say, with David Blatt, the Cavs went to the finals and should have won if they didn't have infinite injuries. Okay? Next year, that dude was out. And the reason he was out is because his players were tuning him out. He did not have the locker room on a championship caliber and eventual winner roster. So if Kevin Stefanski, the Browns need to help Kevin Stefanski. They both need to do each other a favor, right?
Let's talk about defensive coordinator candidates. How about that?
Yes,
we're not even talking about the defense because they're fucking terrible. But before we do, we'll step away for a quick break from our friends at Underdog.
What's up, everybody? We know that daily fantasy never stops, and Network 216 is proud to be a partner with Underdog Fantasy. Very simple to use. All you have to do is go to underdogfantasy.com, and you will just click the sign in button. You'll create an account if you haven't done so already. If you've not created an account, it'll ask you to enter a code. Enter code 216, and they will double your first deposit up to $100. Underdog Fantasy, live draft lobbies that you get to compete with you and your friends. It's no salary cap like DraftKings and FanDuel. You get to go to a draft lobby, pick the players you want, or you can do daily pick'ems, which give you access to all the NFL and NBA games for you to make your picks every single night. Again, go to underdogfantasy.com or use the Underdog Fantasy app on iOS or Android. Use code 216 to double your first deposit up to $100. Sign up today.
So, Joe Woods, the defense, it's struggling again, mightily again. Man, there were some holes I could have ran through. Oh, there's dressing on my face, isn't there?
But you got it.
How long was that going to be there? I don't know. I could have ran through some of those lanes. Like, I don't even want to talk about it because that's how bad it is. I will say one thing, though. Grant Delpit has quietly shown some really nice improvement this year. I would give him some credit. He had some boneheaded plays again this week, but overall, like they've put him back more at a free safety role than up close, and I thought he's done some pretty nice things. I think that you can go into next year going, oh, hey, like Grant Delpit, like you might be able to you might do something here, or whatever. So I'm pretty excited about that. Let's talk about defensive coordinator candidates.
Yes, please.
So I wrote an article. I didn't even wait for the game to be over. Like in the third quarter, I pulled out my laptop and I started writing 3 defensive coordinator candidates to replace Joe Woods in 2023. Even though I'm still not sold that he'll finish this year as the DC, he might not. But in 2023, I want to start with Mike Zimmer because the connection is obvious there with Zimmer, and that is, having been the head coach for Kevin Stefanski, as the quarterback's coach and the offensive coordinator and everything like that. And what they need is they need a head coach of the defense, because I think that's how Kevin Stefanski wants to run this thing. And I don't know if that'll work. I don't. But if you're going to run it back with Kevin Stefanski, and I think they will, he's got to find a CEO of the defense, a coach of the defense. He wants to give the whole reins to Joe Woods. That's what he's done. That is what he has done so far, is given the whole reins on his defense to Joe Woods. It hasn't worked. And I'm sure he's got some say, and people think that he doesn't coach any of the defense at all. I don't think that's true. I think that he has some say and he does some things in there, but he wants to be able to focus on the offensive side of the ball. That's where his money is. That's why those comments by Rizzo seem so dumb. Why would you stop him from doing the thing he is really good at? He can't coach because he's buried in a play sheet. He's only looking at the plays when he's calling him, you freaking moron. Like, I'm sorry. I don't usually say stuff like that about people, but that was some totally tone-deaf, asinine clip. I'm not even going to talk about it anymore. But you want to get you talk about players not knowing what to do, players not being held accountable. Well, Mike Zimmer holds you accountable.
I like that idea. You know what? I didn't know that you were going that way, but it makes a lot of sense when you talk about it. You've got a guy, and you said a head coach of the defense. Well, Mike Zimmer's been a head coach in the NFL, and yes, it didn't end well. Obviously, got fired, but the Vikings had some competitive, good years with Mike Zimmer, and I think it makes a lot of sense. You bring in somebody that you've worked with before, that you have cohesion with, that and that has had results. Obviously, he got a head coaching job in the NFL for a reason and was in Minnesota.
He had a winning record. I mean, he got fired with a winning record. Remember that.
Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense to me. You know what? I think our best case scenario, my biggest hope, is that we just get to talk about defensive coordinator candidates, hopefully maybe special team coordinator candidates. You got another blocked field goal again. One of the only teams that I don't know. The only unit on the Browns that is doing anything at all is the offense. And Kevin Stefanski runs the offense, yet we're just going to yell about Kevin. And none of that makes sense.
Now, he needs to hold his guys accountable. I will give you credit. He needs to figure out why his coaches can't get it done.
I agree. There are issues there. Kevin's not perfect. Yep. But to place all the blame on Kevin, and when your two coordinator, your special teams coordinator and defensive coordinator are clearly they need replaced. I want both of it. Honestly, I don't.
Prefer should have already been gone.
Yes, I mean, I can't remember. I don't know the last time the Browns had truly great special teams. I guess it would have to be the era of Phil Dawson and Josh Cribbs, and that's saying something because it's been a while since then, and I don't know what it is. I don't, opposing kickers never ever miss against us. There's some stupid record out there.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times are you going to get a field goal block? It has to be like, I haven't seen the stats. I imagine the Browns are astronomically higher in blocked kicks, having their kicks blocked, than any other team in the NFL. It probably doesn't come close.
I don't, it's like you turn and maybe you turn on here and you ask me questions. You come to this show and wonder if I'll be able to answer questions. I can't answer that one. I can't. I don't know what, like, I can say something as to what I think, maybe, kind of, but at the same time, it's like I don't know if I don't know. I don't know. It's like I think Cade York is fine. I think he'll be fine. Corey Bajorquez started a really, really good year. Now all of a sudden is suddenly the second coming of the Scottish Hammer, and that's been awful.
It was crazy too. The Browns tried an onside kick, and Gabe Davis, like he was coached up or had the awareness to just bat the ball out of bounds. He just batted it right out of bounds, and there went the Browns' chances. It's like if the Browns could have just replicated that once this year against the Jets, they'd have another win. I mean, I would feel much better at 4-6 than I do at 3-7. I know it's just this one, but you know what? When we're talking about possible Browns records without Deshaun, it's the simple little things that continually get in the way of the Browns and winning games. And a friend of mine asked me the other day. He said, "How many plays are the Browns away from even being 500?" And I guess that now they're not. They couldn't be 500. But honestly, and so
yeah, I would say five games, at least 5 games, they'd be 5-5 right now, at least on 5 plays.
And then you're in the
maybe
hunt.
Probably better than that. Probably 6-4.
That's painful. That's painful. And I don't see any way Prefer can come back. The special teams are an abomination. They honestly are. I don't know. We watch them at camp. It looks like they know what they're doing. They're practicing.
They know their assignments. Yeah, I think
it never translates. It just doesn't. Not even a little. It has to end. It has to.
And like, I don't know. It seems like a thing that, like, so here's my stuff with Stefanski, and as we get towards the end of this show here,
Sure.
that I don't like. It's that there's like this loyalty thing that I like, in the sense of cohesion and working together as a unit and an overall shared responsibility, so to speak. But I just don't understand why he brought Prefer back. Like, I can understand why you brought Woods back. That defense played really good down the stretch. I know they didn't play anybody, but they played really good down the stretch. It makes sense. And you went and felt like you had added some pieces through the draft. Like Martin Emerson, for example, who's been a really nice breath of fresh air on the outside. And I had a disagreement with Pete Smith about getting that. I think Greg Newsome shouldn't be in the slot. And he said, "Oh, so you're benching Martin Emerson." And I said, "Well, no, I guess you bring up a point. I don't know where you would put Newsome if you moved him out of the slot, because you would bench Martin Emerson. And I'm not benching Martin Emerson. Oh. Emerson's playing better right now than Greg Newsome did last year. You just don't realize it because the rest of the defense sucks." So, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Because like, I'll look at grades. Like, sometimes I'll pull up the grades after a game, before I've done the rewatch, before I've seen the all 22 and whatnot now. And I'll look at the grades and I'll be like, yeah, Tommy Togiai. Wait, what the hell? Emerson? And then you go back and you watch him and you're like, oh yeah. Dude is only let up like, his yards after the catch has been like single digits in all but 2 games. So for the whole game, he let up like one game, he let up 9 yards after catch for the whole game, which, so even when he's allowing completions, it's done. It's over. Like, the game's the yardage is over. So because he's on top of him, he's been really, really good. But like, you thought with Martin Emerson and some of these other guys, these pieces, the flipping Mac Wilson, who was an off-ball linebacker, which didn't really match with your scheme. You were putting him with Winovich, and of course the injury goes there. So you felt like going into this that Joe Woods had enough, with JOK and Anthony Walker, who was playing out of his mind to start the year and all this. So I can understand where you came up with, okay, I'm good with Joe. Let's bring Joe back because of X, Y, and Z. It's like continuity. I get it. You want the continuity, but what about the only thing in my mind that Prefer ever did that I was really, really on board with was he was the interim head coach for the playoff win.
Yeah, I guess.
I said kind of because I still Stefanski wasn't there. That's what's a Stefanski haters. The best game the Browns have ever had. He was in his basement. Yeah, because that wasn't his fucking scheme anymore.
Like the Browns have had 0 kickoff return game, 0 punt return game.
Well, Ford's done a pretty good job, though.
Yeah, credit to Jerome Ford, who definitely has. I was going to say that he definitely has some sauce to the return game, but I'm saying the overall prefer experience,
it's been bad.
Has been poor in all phases of special teams, and I don't understand bringing him back. I don't get it. If it wasn't working before, like you said, at least the defense gave you encouraging signs at the end of last year. The special teams has given you none.
Yeah.
At any point. So Prefer's got to go. That's all. And you know what? You said you didn't want to talk about the defense. I'm tired of the special teams. I can't watch it anymore. I can't.
Well, we can talk about the special teams because I'm mad about that too. All right, Nick, let's get some final thoughts. We got a couple of minutes before we got to roll so that the Faithful Dog Boys can take over behind us. So final thoughts for me. I don't know what's going to happen this weekend. I do know that Ohio State's going to beat Michigan, but I don't know what's going to happen this weekend for the Browns. I don't know how we'll feel when we talk on Tuesday, that sort of thing. But I do think that there's going to be some things you can learn. Greg Newsome will continue to get some valuable snaps in the slot, for example, and some things that'll happen the rest of this year. Mark Emerson will get some more snaps. Hopefully JOK can get back and looking pretty good and sort of things. And David Njoku can continue to flourish. But the final 6 games are going to show you if all the bullshit was worth it. Now, granted, he's going to come out sloppy, but if he just shows flashes while he shakes off the rust, if he's showing some flashes and things, you're going to find out whether or not the Browns' calculated risk of drafting of trading for him was worth it. You'll find that out very, very soon. And I think it could create for a very exciting offseason waiting for it to come, or it could be just a disaster.
I think some of Deshaun Watson's teammates are anticipating his return as much as some fans are. Yeah. And I just you know what I'm looking for? I'm looking for some fight in the game before he returns. How about you don't let him return to a 3-8 football team? How about you don't? You know,
just don't.
Deshaun already left a dysfunctional, terrible team that everything was on him. He didn't want to be a part of that. The Browns, the ultimate disaster scenario that I don't even want to go down the road is that Deshaun finds himself in yet another place where everything is on him. And I'm just asking the rest of the Browns to do their part so that's not reality. Because your nightmare disaster everything is that he's somebody on the radio said that right now they are the Houston Browns, and that's what they're playing like. They're waiting for Deshaun Watson to come save them. And it's like, I know that the defense isn't going to magically be fixed, but how about some heart? How about some fight? How about some effort? How about
just act like you give a shit?
You're going back home in front of a crowd that is paying good money and good time to be there, and it's probably going to be cold. And that's what I'm looking for. Show some fight, because if this is supposed to be some grand return of Deshaun Watson, I think he would like to see some fire from his teammates. So show some.
It's a good way to end this as I can think of.
This has been episode 83. Wow. Creeping closer to 100 of the Barking Browns Show. I'm Nick. He's Jacob. Go Browns.
I guess.